And it's customary for us to begin our meetings with a prayer by a commissioner and then a pledge of allegiance led by Commissioner Outlaw. And at this time, during this time, you can stand and join us in the prayer. You can use the time for your own prayer if you like, or you can certainly stand and use it for a moment of silence, your preference. And at this time, I'd like to call on Commissioner Sue Leggett for the invocation.
Let us pray. Dear Lord, we ask for your presence here today as we gather to conduct the business of Nash County. Lord, we thank you for your countless blessings as we gather here, including our safety and our health. Lord, please be with those who need your healing hand, affirmation of the Spirit, or just a helping hand. We ask for your guidance, grace, and wisdom here today. All of these things we ask in your holy and precious name. Amen.
Amen. Would you join us in the pledge? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Commissioner Outlaw, would you mind updating us on Commissioner Combs, what you know about that, sir? He's not here this morning.
Yes, sir, I will. I got a call about 7:30 this morning. He said his wife had got sick during the night. Around 3 o'clock this morning, he took her to Wake Med, and they're running some tests up there. When he talked to me, he had been sitting in the parking lot since about 6 because they would not let him go in. So he's going to let me know a little bit later how she's doing. I don't think it's COVID or anything like that, but they are doing a COVID test on her.
Cool. Thank you, Commissioner Outlaw. And now we're on item number 3 on the agenda, which is, item number 4, which is approval of the minutes. During June, we had 3 meetings. Our regular meeting June the 1st, a budget meeting on June the 15th, and then we had a recess meeting on June the 29th. You have those minutes on your iPad. If there's any questions or corrections, we would like to hear them at this time, or a motion for approval.
Move for approval.
I have a motion for approval by Commissioner Outlaw, a second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on that motion? Seeing none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Minutes stand approved. Thank you, Madam Clerk. Next item is item number 5, which is public comment. And during this time, the board sets this time aside at the beginning of each month at our first regular meeting to hear from the public on any matter they wish to bring to the board. And what we do ask, if it is a public hearing that is on the agenda later, or if it's on the agenda later, that you wait till that time when we get to that item. But if you have anything else that you wish to bring before the board, this would be the time to bring it. Is there anyone? I did not have anyone to sign up this morning. We do ask for you to sign up out front, but if someone missed that step, the board would certainly like to hear from you. I'll be glad to have you come up, state your name and address, and tell us what you got on your mind this morning. Anyone? Seeing no one, we'll move to item number 6, resolution reaffirming oaths and obligation to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of North Carolina, United States and the state of North Carolina. And I would call on Alan Chesser to make a presentation at this time. Alan, welcome to Nash County, sir. And you may be a native, I'm not sure. State your name and address for the record.
My name is Alan Chesser. I live at 1140 Fraser Road in Spring Hope, so I am a native.
You are in Nash County. You know, now that you stand up, I know who you are. I apologize.
You're fine. You're fine.
Welcome.
Thank you, sir. Like I said, I'm a resident of Spring Hope, and I came today to present a resolution to the body concerning the constitutional rights of the citizens of Nash County and the state of North Carolina. I wanted to thank Commissioner Cohn for hearing the resolution originally and bringing it to the board. He's not here. I thank the board for its consideration on this issue and the chair for putting it on the agenda today. Without further ado, I'm going to get into the resolution, then I'll save my comments to the end of it.
Please.
It's okay. Resolution for the Board of Commissioners of Nash County, North Carolina, reaffirming oaths and obligations to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of North Carolina. I know that's a mouthful, but I think it's an appropriate title. Whereas the Nash County Board of Commissioners are duly elected governing body of Nash County, North Carolina, and that upon each commissioner's election, he or she takes the following oath of office. I do solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States, so help me God. I do further solemnly swear and sincerely swear that I will be faithful and bear true allegiance to the state of North Carolina, to the constitutional powers and authorities which are or may be established in the government thereof, and that I will endeavor to support, maintain, and defend the Constitution of said state, not inconsistent with the Constitution of the United States, to the best of my knowledge, so help me God. I do further swear that I will well and truly execute the duties of the office of County Commissioner according to the best of my skills and ability, according to the law, so help me God. Whereas it is the sworn duty of each commissioner to uphold the entire Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of the state of North Carolina, that further, it is our duty to uphold the law of the United States and the laws of the state of North Carolina, not inconsistent therein. And whereas the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution states a well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And whereas the United States Supreme Court, in its decision on District of Columbia versus Heller, held that the Second Amendment protects the right to possess a handgun in the home for the purpose of self-defense. And whereas the U.S. Supreme Court, in its decision McDonald versus the City of Chicago, held that the Due Process Clause of the 14th Amendment incorporates the Second Amendment's rights recognized in Heller. And whereas the amendment was adopted in, 1970 to modify Section 30 of the North Carolina State Constitution to state a well-regulated militia being necessary for the security of a free state, the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. And as standing armies in time of peace are dangerous to liberty, they shall not be maintained, and the military shall be kept under strict subordination to and governed by the civil power. Nothing herein shall justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons or prevent the General Assembly from enacting penal statutes against that practice. And whereas this amendment is in direct conflict with the Second Amendment of the United States and the right of the people to keep and bear arms, and whereas this amendment is in direct conflict with the 14th Amendment of the United States and the court's interpretation of Heller and McDonald, therefore be it resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners do hereby affirm their opposition to any and all legislation and or executive orders that infringes upon the Second or 14th Amendment rights of the people as set forth in Heller and in the McDonald decision, and withhold county funding of the monies for any and all offices or departments used for the purpose of violating those rights. Now therefore let it be further resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners do hereby affirm our support and desire to see the Constitution of the state of North Carolina properly align with the intent of the founders in the Second Amendment by striking the language, nothing herein shall justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons or prevent the General Assembly from enacting penal statutes against that practice from Section 30 of the state Constitution. Now therefore be it further resolved that the Nash County Board of Commissioners does hereby reaffirm our solemn oaths and obligations to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States and the state of North Carolina, so help us God. That was a mouthful. When I wrote this resolution, I believe it was back in February, it was long before COVID. Well, and in my eyes, it feels like that was a lifetime ago. It was in response to the people in Nash County and our collective fear that the government at any level would continue to expand into our lives. I know upon hearing this resolution, you may find concern about some of the strong language that I used in it. Unlike the soft, watered-down resolutions that other counties have passed in North Carolina, I wanted a resolution that required, measurable action by the commissioners. I wanted to present something that had teeth, something that would actually move the needle against government growth. I wanted to present this body with an opportunity to pledge to the people that you are willing to sacrifice alongside us for our common rights. When I originally authorized this resolution, I was cautioned about speaking too loudly against the state's government as it might make enemies within the ranks of those who hold power in Raleigh. But since that time, we have seen an executive that has assumed unchecked powers and authorities, a state legislature that seems powerless to stop him. We've seen our rights and liberties eroded, our livelihoods challenged, and our people divided. To be clear, I'm not asking you to create a sanctuary of any kind here in Nash County, because the Constitution of the United States and the state constitution are the supreme law of the land, and they need no safe space within our borders. I'm simply requesting that you declare that Nash County will remain a county that takes action to protect the rights of its citizens, regardless of political affiliations or pressures. I believe that the events of this year have caused this vote to go far beyond the mere adoption of a resolution. I believe that this vote now would represent a return to constitutionally limited government and a structure supported by the people. This issue was settled long before I ever penned it to paper in a Supreme Court ruling in 1803, Mulberry versus Madison, where the primary finding was Congress does not have the power to pass laws that override the Constitution. In that court opinion, Justice Marshall stated, "To what purpose are powers limited, and to what purpose is the limitation committed to writing if these limits may at any time be passed by those intended to be restrained?" I don't ask that you support this resolution to win political points toward getting reelected, but that you support this resolution to win back a portion of the liberty that has been stolen from the people. I thank you for your time and your consideration.
Okay. Any questions of Alan this morning from a board member? Mr. Belfield?
Yes, where do you intend us, if it's passed, this to go? Just stay here in Nash County?
No, I intend for this to be a conversation starter at the state level where we can actually affect some change.
Well, the reason I ask, because we have taken an oath to support the Constitution of the state and the Constitution of the United States, with the state constitution not superseding the Constitution of the United States. We've already taken the oath of office to do that, and I think we've done a real good job in upholding that here in Nash County. Personally, I don't see the need for the resolution.
Thank you, Mr. Belfield. Other comments from board members? Questions? Alan, do you come here today with the primary purpose of the Second Amendment, or does it go way beyond that? Your comments about state government, I know you realize we work as a unified but a partisan board, but yet we generally operate in a nonpartisan manner at this level. And therefore, your comments about state government, even though they were not directed at either party, actually directed at both, what is your sole primary reason for this resolution, I guess is what I'm trying to get to.
Well, originally, when authored, my primary intent was to bring to light there was a growing movement. Like I said, February seems like so long ago that we've forgotten what was happening in politics and in the political climate in February. But there was a growing movement for additional red flag gun laws, and even local elected officials showed support for that. So this resolution was originally authored in response to that growing sentiment of enshrining, yes, the Second Amendment and 14th Amendment rights of the people of Nash County. Again, it's not a statement of creating a sanctuary, because I don't believe the Constitution needs that. I think it's strong enough to stand on its own. It's more a statement of intent where the board recognizes its own authority of the power of the purse and says that they won't stand for the rights of the people being eroded.
Okay, thank you. I would be remiss if I didn't ask our attorney to give us his opinion of this, and Mr. Durham, I apologize. I normally ask you to prepare yourself for a question I may ask, and I didn't have the question until this morning, but I'd like to know your thoughts on it as it relates to the board adopting this resolution, if you should have any.
Well, I don't really have any problems with the whereases, but I do think you've already sworn under oath to protect both constitutions. I do have some concerns about the portions of this resolution where you are resolving to withhold county funding for certain offices. And I also have concerns about stating that you want to strike portions of the North Carolina Constitution. I'm not saying that he doesn't have good arguments, but it just concerns me that you would take a position in writing by resolution on those points.
I'll again ask if any commissioner has any further comment.
I think what Mr. Chesser is asking us, and I'm like everybody else sitting up here, I saw this resolution for the first time when I looked at the board agenda earlier last week. And I guess if the state constitution, and I have not looked at the state constitution to verify it, but if it says nothing herein shall justify the practice of carrying concealed weapons or prevent the General Assembly from enacting penal statutes against the practice, does that mean, I'm just trying to understand, that the General Assembly could enact statutes that could take away my right as a concealed carrier? Is that what that means? I'm just asking.
Mr. Durham, are you willing to address that?
Well, I haven't gone and looked at it in the Constitution in the broader context either. That certainly seems to be what it's saying.
Well,
But the General Assembly has certainly enacted statutes that allow you to carry concealed weapons.
When permitted properly?
Yes.
That would be one of my questions.
well, I am properly permitted as a concealed carrier, although I don't carry it on this property because it's not allowed. But I think, to me, this is not a divisive issue. It's just simply a matter of verbiage in the state constitution that could allow the General Assembly to take away our right as a concealed carrier. And if that's the case, then I've got a problem with that. And I think everybody sitting up here and out there should have a problem with that. Now, I don't think that we should, as a board, that we should take away funding, needed funding, but I think this resolution does have some teeth, and maybe with some adjustment in some of the verbiage, it would probably be something that would get support. But I absolutely have no problem with asking the General Assembly to take that statement out of the Constitution.
Mr. Belfield?
The state constitution and what the General Assembly enact cannot supersede our United States Constitution, where we have the 14th and the Second Amendment.
Well, I see a lot of things going on today that tell me otherwise, Mr. Belfield.
That's because it hadn't been challenged.
Well,
Challenge it.
If our governor doesn't challenge those things, then who are we to look to?
Well, we can do it.
Again, I don't want this to be a divisive issue. I felt like it probably would be when it came here. I have great respect for Mr. Belfield, my friend on the other side of the aisle. We have different views, but I respect him. I value his opinion. My opinion, and I know he values that, my opinion, is that if that statement is in the Constitution, then it should come out of the state constitution. It should not give our General Assembly the authority to remove my right as a concealed carrier in the state of North Carolina. And that's all I'm going to say on that subject.
I would only
Durham.
say, and I don't disagree with anything you're saying, but I think rather than telling the General Assembly to strike this language, it would be better if you said, we support, and I need to study, but we should support the General Assembly taking the steps necessary to amend the state constitution.
Which is what I just said. This resolution
I think
needs
that would be
some
better than
fine
the way it's written.
tuning, but it's got some teeth.
Yeah.
If it pleases the board, I would request that the board table this item until such time as this board gets the opportunity to work on it some, with our attorneys. I think that'd be the fair thing to do and see if we can get closer as a board to agreeing on what we got before us today. Is there any opposition to tabling the request?
Maybe Mr. Chester could work with Mr. Durham and
Absolutely.
Be happy to.
Okay.
Can I ask one question?
Please, Ms. Lamb, I was getting ready to call on you, sir, see if you had any further
If-
advice for the board.
If it's instead of against that practice, it had said regulating that practice, would that have been better had they done that in 2017? I mean, in 1970?
In 1970? For me personally, I don't believe that it's within the purview of the General Assembly to add additional restrictions that aren't in the Constitution. So I think by them assuming the authority to regulate that practice, they are, as you said, sir, attempting to supersede the Second and 14th Amendment. And therefore, this would be the beginning of that challenge that you requested.
So you're saying that the state has no right
That last
in
sentence,
any way to regulate concealed weapons?
private property has the right, but the state as is.
Because they do regulate it now by requiring a permit and things like that. And what did you have in mind? The attorney brought it up and others have brought it up. What examples would we withhold county funding for all offices or departments used for the purpose of violating those rights? What did you have in mind there?
Say if there was a red flag gun law that was passed at General Assembly level, just in theory, that was not supported by the county or the board, who would enforce that?
So you're saying
The county would provide no funds towards enforcing what they saw as an unconstitutional.
I got you.
I'm gonna put a motion on the table to.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
That's all.
To table this request. A motion to table does not have discussion. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
There's a second. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? We will table the request, and at the same time, I would like to ask if they're willing, Commissioner Belfield, Commissioner Outlaw, and the Attorney Durham, and the presenter, if y'all would work on this some in between now and our August meeting, and see what common ground you have between the entities, and maybe bring it back to us in August, in a manner that this board would be pleased to approve it. Is that proper, Mr. Durham?
Sure, that's fine.
Mr. Outlaw?
I'd be honored to do that.
Yeah,
Ms. Belfield? Okay. Any problem with that from the board? No. All right. Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Glad you're here this morning, and I hope you're willing to work with us. Moving on to item number 7, which is a work-ready communities, and Ms. Dickinson is with us this morning, I see. Welcome to Nash County. I know you have several.
Hi, my name is Duna Dickinson. I am the NC Works Outreach Coordinator for Turning Point Workforce Development Board. And thank you for your time. Can y'all hear me with this on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Pretty
all right,
well.
good. Thank you. You're pulling up my website. Thank you. Turning Point Workforce Development Board convened with many of our partners to get Nash County work-ready certified. And you'll see this is the national one. If you'll click on North Carolina and take us to Nash, please. Thank you. So this was done, it started in 2018, and we received the certification in October of 2018. So what does it mean for Nash County? Why did we do it? Why did your Workforce Development Board spend time on convening these meetings and y'all agreed to be a part of it? It was to help with economic development. It's to say to the United States, to businesses outside of Nash County, that we have a pool of certified workers who can do basic math for work, can read for work, English for work, and then also to use graphs and how to read graphs. The ACT that created the entrance exam for colleges, y'all know who I'm talking about? They created an assessment for workers. And the assessment is nationwide. It's called Work Keys. And it's given NC DPI, Department of Public Instruction, as well as the community college system, bought into this program and said, let's give this out into the community. Let's give this assessment to our students, certain populations. And so if you'll look at Nash County, if you'll scroll down a little bit, please. Keep on, please, thank you. Right there. Ooh, it's hard to read. But there are over 7,000 people in Nash County who have received this certification. And the certification is called a National Career Readiness Certificate. So they take the assessment at the high school or the community college. OIC offers it. Our NC Work Centers has money to help pay for the test. And then when a person takes it, if they pass it, they are a bronze certification, silver, gold, or platinum. What it says to a business is this person can read for work. They can read directions and know what to do. They can do basic math, like read a ruler, or know that in an hour, if I work 15 minutes, that's a quarter of an hour. It tests that kind of information. And so a business then can look at that person and let's say they're working at Cummins and they're on the line and they're not performing. Well, if they've taken this assessment and the job has been defined, then you can say, all right, they are a silver math level, but this job requires a gold math level. So then that business can then say they have a gap, a learning gap with math, and we need to address that and send them to Nash Community College and work on their math skills. That's the purpose of the assessment. So Turning Point convened meetings, and it was with y'all and with Nash Rocky Mountain Schools, Nash Community College, us, NC Works, several different partners, and we all work together to educate businesses on the value of using this to hire and also to retain employees. The ACT, along with the North Carolina Chamber and NCDPI and North Carolina Community College Systems all came up with a certification program, and they said, each county has to meet this certain criteria, and if they do, we will certify them. So Nash, one of them is you have to have an improving graduation rate, and y'all did, Nash Rocky Mountain Schools. But then you also have to have a certain amount of these assessments that have to be passed, as well as businesses have to recognize this certification. And we reached that goal in 2018. So just wanted to educate you on what your Workforce Development Board is trying to help do for Nash County. Any questions for me?
Any questions from a board member first? Any questions from staff or anyone in the audience? Seems like you're doing a very good job.
Well,
Thank you. Thank you.
Mr. Belfield?
On certification, you're talking about individuals or just individuals that's on the committee?
Individuals just out in the county.
Okay.
Yes, sir. Well, in the high school, career and technical education, like if they want to be a nursing assistant, the certified nursing assistant, if they take 2 of those career and technical education classes in high school, they're required to take this assessment. So then they are the ones who would take it. Not all high school students have to take it, just certain ones. Same with at the community college, there's a group that takes it. But then when they get to be out in the workforce and they come to NC Works, if they meet certain of our criteria, we will pay for them to take the assessment. So it goes on in the prisons. The prisons work on helping people who are getting ready to get out. They help them take this assessment. There's a prep for it. OIC does a great job preparing people for the test.
Yeah. Well, that's something that's needed, especially our penal system, and getting those folks ready to come back out into the world, and try to have a successful life from their own, which is not happening now. Too many of them come out, nobody want to hire them, and they just roam the street and go right back into the same situation that got them in the penal system. That's something we need to address.
And our NC Work Centers, there are people in our career centers who are designed to help with that. They know which employers will not do a background check, and so they can encourage that, and they can encourage going to school to get certain, what's growing in our area, you know, what data is saying that are fields that are growing. And then those career advisors can help those people figure out what field to go into. Does that make sense?
Oh, yes. And can any mentoring be involved in this? A part of this, rather. Mentoring, especially, I'm thinking about the penal system when people are coming out.
The NC Works Career Center, which is,
suggested careers and maybe monitoring, mentoring, so that they'll be hopefully successful, whether in the workforce or maybe entrepreneurs.
Yes, sir. We are trying to build that, and there are programs in our NC Works to help, and like you're saying, to mentor and follow along with that person. Yes, sir. We are trying to do that and build that and strengthen it in the NC Works Career Centers.
Okay.
Other comments?
I've got one.
Let's look at.
Good morning, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good. If businesses are interested in adopting this and giving these assessments to their employees or potential employees, how would they go about participating?
The community college through the corporate trainer, and oh, I'm sorry, but her name is slipping my mind. Y'all know
Wendy
who-
Marlowe. I think it's
Wendy Marlowe,
Wendy
maybe?
Marlowe?
It's the person under her.
Cahoon.
Wendy would be able to connect them. You're welcome to send them to me. I'm happy to connect them with the proper person. But yes, that's our desire, is to help businesses use this tool. The goal for Nash County was 120 businesses to recognize this certification, and we got 138. But the thing is, we need to keep educating them. And just like I'm doing for y'all and explaining what this is, we're trying to do that in the business community. So please feel free to refer them to me, and I'll connect them
Yes, ma'am.
and work with them.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank y'all.
Thank you
for your
for being
time.
here this morning, and we certainly appreciate what you do for Nash County.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Good to see you again. Back on item 7, Commissioner Outlaw, Benjur, the vice chair, if I could ask you to chair that group to look into that resolution, I appreciate it.
That would be myself and Mr. Belfield and
Mr.
Mr.
Durham?
Miller and the attorney.
Yes, sir.
Thank you.
Okay. Moving on to item number 8, which is a subdivision waiver request. I call on Mr. Tyson at this time. Good morning.
Good morning. This should be a much shorter planning action than we're used to. It does not require a public hearing.
Any update on your employee situation that I got notice of this morning before you start?
No new update today
Okay.
so far.
And that's his son that was in the wreck?
Correct.
Okay. Let him have some tough luck, didn't he?
That's right. The subject property consists of the 2 adjacent tracts of land that are outlined in red on the screen in front of you. They're owned by Linda Foster Rich. They total up to 4.46 acres in area. They're on the west side of North NC Highway 58. This site is north of Matthews Crossroads, for those of you familiar with the area, just south of Simmons Road, and also just south of the town of Castelia municipal limits. It is zoned A1 agricultural. These 2 undeveloped lots were subdivided from a larger tract back on February 3rd of this year. The land surveyor has submitted a major subdivision final plat for the subject property, which we'll zoom in on right there. And Stone Auction and Realty, the prospective developer, proposes the subdivision of the 2 lots into 4 lots, each which would have direct access to North NC Highway 58. The Unified Development Ordinance identifies Highway 58 as a road having significant traffic mobility concerns, as it does for all roads that have over 1,000 vehicle trips per day. And although the standard minimum lot width in this zone is 100 feet per lot, the ordinance requires typically on these heavily traveled roads either an extra 100 feet of additional lot width, which would total up to 200 feet, or at least 50 feet with some extra lot area to offset it. These regulations were adopted by the board to limit the proliferation of driveways along heavily traveled roads and in order to decrease the potential for traffic accidents. All 4 of these lots contain the standard required minimum lot width of 100 feet, but none of them will be wide enough to meet the additional requirements typically required on a high-traffic road. So in cases such as these, the ordinance empowers the Board of Commissioners to grant waivers, provided that the developer demonstrates either a physical hardship or an alternative proposal that would provide equal or better performance in the furtherance of the purposes of the ordinance. And just to review, the purpose of the ordinance is to space out driveways. Therefore, the developer has requested a waiver of the additionally required lot width for these 4 proposed new lots on the grounds that the waiver will result in equal or better performance, subject to limiting both of those lots to just 2 shared points of access. And so you can see the yellow highlighted here, the first 2 lots would share a single driveway, and then the second 2 lots would share a single driveway easement. That meets the original criteria of the ordinance, which is to space those driveways out more without limiting them to just 2 lots. It allows them to create the 4 lots. To restrict the establishment of additional driveways, if you'll notice the pink line here, which is along the frontage of each lot where they don't coincide with the yellow driveway easements, is a 5-foot wide non-access easement to funnel all traffic through those 2 shared driveways. This waiver request was considered by the Technical Review Committee back on May 29th and by the Planning Board on June 15th. Both bodies voted unanimously to recommend approval, finding that the waiver would result in equal or better performance and that the proposed subdivision design is consistent with the applicable standards of the UDO. This is a single motion process, so there's no consistency statement to worry with. It's just an approval or a denial. And I'll be glad to take any questions that the board has.
Question for commissioners at this time of Mr. Tyson? Seeing none, any other discussion from the board? I'd entertain a motion for approval or denial of this subdivision or waiver request. It is located in Ms. Richardson's district.
Mr. Chairman,
Yes,
I
ma'am.
would offer a motion for the approval of the subdivision's waiver request.
I have a motion by Commissioner Richardson. Is there a second to that motion?
Second.
And that motion was for approval. There's a second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Adam.
Thank you.
Mr. Tyson, excuse me. Mr. Adam Tyson. Number 9 is a franchise agreement for North State Medical Transport, Eastern Medical Transport, and METZ Medical Transport to be presented by Mr. Brantley. Good morning, sir.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
We are good, sir. Hope you are.
Yes, sir. I hope I just take a minute of y'all's time. This is the first renewal of the franchise agreement with North State Medical, Eastern Medical, and METZ Medical Transport. And I'll be back in August for the second approval if y'all approve this one. These services, when we're unable to make the transport, our convalescent units are tied up, then we call them and they come run the call for us. And they have all shown a high degree of professionalism, and that's why we recommend them to the board.
Would you have any idea how many times you utilized these 3 total for the last year?
It was somewhere around 160 times that we contacted them to take the transports.
Okay. Any other questions from board members?
And these are for inter-county transports. For example, Mets or North State can come in and take a transport out of the county without permission from us. But if it's going from a location in the county to a location in the county, they need to get that approval from Nash County MS.
Franchise, get permission to work in Nash County when needed. That's the only time when needed that they reimburse, they are able to collect, maybe from Medicare, Medicaid, or whatever.
If we request them to make the transport, there's no problem with the franchise. If they come in and they do an inter-county transport without our permission, they actually violate the franchise. But we've got a great relationship with all three of these, and it's worked out great over the years. Mets is new. They actually have a base here in Nash County. And so they are a business in Nash County, but they're trying to get agreements with counties all around Nash County, not just us, so they can keep their business thriving.
No other comments or questions? I'd entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by
Second.
Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on the motion?
I have one
Mr.
question.
Lamb, excuse me, sir.
The process, do they contact you if they've got a client? Do they initiate it, or do you always initiate it?
We normally initiate it. They may have a client that they transport out of county for, but they know they'll contact us and say, we've got a request for a transport in the county. If we can handle it, we take it. If we can't handle it, then we'll say, go ahead and take it.
That's my question.
Yeah, that was a good question, because what we've seen happen is that we'll get slammed sometime. We just can't take the call, and they really support, for example, the hospital. If they need to discharge a patient, and that patient's sitting there, we can't get to it, then they normally jump right on it. If North State can't handle it, we'll contact Mets. If they can't handle it, we'll contact Eastern Medical. So we're trying to keep our customers from having to wait for an ambulance for so long when we know we can't handle the transport.
Are they on rotation like our records, or you do it a different way?
It's pretty much a rotation situation.
I have that motion on the floor with a second. All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
I would like to thank the county for the support they're showing our employees. We have had numerous employees self-isolating, some at home. With the situation, we're doing as many as 8 or 9 decontaminations of our ambulances every day. I think I saw 7 last Friday. We're doing 7, sometimes 4, sometimes 9. But the employees are showing the professionalism to protect the community, because if we get infected, we certainly can affect the community. And I just want to thank the county for the equipment we purchased, decon equipment, disinfectant, employees. Some employees have to take 3 or 4 showers a day. They'll come in. Our community medics or our training officer will decontaminate the ambulance. The employee goes into the shower area at the station in Rocky Mount. They take a shower, put on some type of clothing that looks half professional, and then get back to their station and put another uniform on. And some employees are going through that 3 or 4 times a day. And I just would like to say publicly, our employees are showing true professionalism to protect themselves, their family, and the community, and thank the county for their support.
Thank you, Mr. Brown. Appreciate those words.
Okay, thank y'all.
We're now on item number 10, and I'd call on Donna Wood for housing urgent repair. presentation and then the next 4 items on the agenda.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Morning. The first item is the Housing and Urgent Repair Program 2020. Nash County has been awarded $100,000 by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency under the 2020 cycle through the North Carolina Housing Trust Fund of the Urgent Repair Program. Urgent Repair 20 provides deferred loans to low-income homeowners for crucial repairs that enable residents to remain in the home. The program does not require that the entire dwelling be brought up to usual rehabilitation standards, but can be helpful in stabilizing deterioration. In some cases, no additional assistance is sought after the urgent repairs are completed. Requesting adoption of a project budget ordinance for the 2020 cycle.
All right, any questions on this project ordinance? Seeing none, entertain a motion for approval.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Wells,
Second.
second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Item number 11 is 2020 Essential Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool. Ms. Wood?
Okay, the Nash County 2020 Essential Single Family Loan Pool project budget. We were awarded $190,000 by the North Carolina Housing Finance Agency to repair 5 homes. The Essential Single Family Rehabilitation Loan Pool program targets properties with moderate repair needs which are essential. Eligible households must be in Nash County, including municipalities, and having a household income at or above the Nash County 2020 80% median household income mark. The households must also be occupied by individuals with special needs, elderly, disabled, other than dishonorably discharged military veterans, or a child with elevated lead levels. And it's $190,000 awarded to Nash County, requesting approval of the grant project ordinance.
Again, I'll entertain a motion for approval of this grant project ordinance. These are the items that Ms. McGee presented to us out of last meeting, I think. Move for approval. Motion by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign. Motion carries. Item number 12 is COVID-19 Grant Project Ordinance Amendment 2.
The attached project ordinance is submitted to amend the special grant project ordinance for coronavirus grant funding. This includes additional funding of $162,206 from the CARES Act and the HAVA funds from the House Bill 1169 for the Nash County Board of Elections, and an additional $1,784,259 from North Carolina House Bill 2023 from the Coronavirus Relief Fund for additions and revisions. We have not technically received any of these funds, but in preparation of the receipt of the funds, we wanted to go ahead and have the amendment approved, so the funds would be available for spending when we do receive them.
Would you?
Oh, and I apologize, one other, there's a correction to the amended column.
Okay.
The amended column revenue is correct, it's $2,086,532. The expenditures should also indicate the same. It's just a typo in the total. All the numbers add up correctly, but the total should actually be, for expenditures, $2,086,532. This Amendment 2 increases the total to $4,032,997.
Now I understand. Okay. Any questions on this item?
The COVID-19, no,
Yes, sir.
I mean the card. I noticed you stated that it is cost effective. How? How is it cost effective to use it?
I'm sorry, say that again?
Now, we're on item
Wait.
12. Mr. Belfield, I'm not sure what you have.
Oh, I'm sorry, I'm ahead of myself.
Okay, I thought you may be.
Yeah, I'm ahead of myself.
Okay, all right. Mr. Lamb, The only thing I would ask about this, I read a couple of times a weekend about our homeless shelter on McDonald Street, needing additional funds, and I can understand why they would, and it seemed like Rocky Mountain may be trying to do something, may not do anything. Is there any opportunity for us to use some of this second group of money to assist someone like that particular one? I wouldn't want to get in it deeply, but I just think that would be a need and a place. You know, you and I have been over there and met with them a few times, and Mr. Bellfield is on that board, if I'm not mistaken. Could you tell us if that's a possibility?
Yes, sir, it sure is. We have to reformulate where all this money's going because they doubled the 1.78 million. And so we're going to have to get together once the bill is signed, if it has not been signed yet, to give us that extra money. And I think most of y'all probably know that those municipal grants, it was voluntary for the first 1.78 counties were not obligated to give that to municipalities. We had set aside $200,000, and the new legislation says 1/4 of the total amount, both appropriations, have to go to municipal grants. So, but in the other categories, we put these dollars in there, but we haven't designated anything for it to go to yet. So we'll definitely keep that in mind and report back to y'all.
Okay. I think it was $30,000 that they were seeking from the city of Rocky Mount, if I remember that right. Is that correct, Mr. Bellfield? Did you happen to see it?
I was looking at something. What did you?
Wasn't it $30,000
Yeah,
they were seeking from the city of Rocky Mount?
We were both doing the same thing. So I read in the paper, though, I thought it was saying that theirs was $20,000. That's not my understanding of being on that board. I think the two counties, the city and the county were doing the same amount, $30,000 each.
Whatever the article said, Mr. Lance. Okay.
Yeah.
I think the 30,000 was the number.
Yeah, that's what we were doing, 30,000.
Okay, all right. I think I'm needing a motion to approve this item number 12.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Bellfield. Is there a second to that motion? Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any questions on the motion? All in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by like sign. Motion carries as well. We'll move to item number 13, which is the procurement card that we discussed some at our last meeting. Ms. Wood?
So a draft revised procurement card policy was presented at the June 29th Board of Commissioners meeting in order to initiate the review of the policy effective for fiscal year 2021. Following the Board of Commissioners meeting, the draft revised policy was distributed to the county departments to obtain comments and concerns internally. The concerns and comments received were directly related to the availability of the P card. In the original policy, under item number 2, I had indicated that certain departments, I had 10 departments listed that would receive a procurement card. And the responses that came back were there were certain departments that needed or would like to have an active procurement card. In addition, there were 3 departments that requested an additional card other than just one. And so I wanted to address that in a revision that I've provided. So just to let you know, MIS requested that they maintain an active procurement card. Board of Elections requested to maintain an active card. Economic Development requested an active card. Cooperative Extension requested to maintain 2 cards, one for Cooperative Extension Office and one for the Farmers Market. Emergency Services requested to maintain 2 cards, one for their EMS Station 800, where the logistics person is located, and then one for internal operations here at the administrative building. And our sheriff's office requested to maintain 6 P cards, which would include the sheriff, the chief deputy, 3 majors, and the quartermaster, who is the logistics person located internally. So in consideration of the request, an adjustment was made to the draft policy for item 2 on page 2, so the additional departments were added to the distribution list, and to update the verbiage. So I didn't indicate the number of cards, I just changed it to item 2. Instead of saying they will maintain a card, I indicated that that they would maintain, that the following departments will maintain active P cards. And so that didn't indicate how many, it just said these were the departments that would have cards. So it's finance, administration, parks and recreation, aging, park facility, facility maintenance, Department of Social Services, health, sheriff's office, emergency services, cooperative extension, management information system, board of elections, economic development. And in doing that, if this policy is approved, that the departments that I listed with the additional cards, those cards would be included in the active list and what we would allow the departments to have.
Say that last thing again, please.
So if the draft policy is approved, the cards listed as requested, the numbers as requested in addition to the departments listed, that would be what we would activate for our P cards, effective for fiscal year 2021.
So I'm sorry.
I'll get you in just a second. Any questions of board members on this policy?
Of the,
Of the revised policy that Ms. Wood has presented this morning. And what she said is, when she sent it out to all the department heads, she didn't have any questions as it relates to anything in the policy, other than some questions from some departments that didn't get their P card that they had before, and several departments that asked for additional P cards. So all the stuff she had in there about any new rules or regulations, none of it was questioned. It was just total matter of which departments would get cards, and she had eliminated some because I think her directive was to try to keep it close to 10. But numerous departments felt like they still wanted one. And so she has given you that list, and she has given you 3 departments that wanted more than one. So if we approve the policy as she presented it, we would grant each request that has come from a department, as I understand it. So your question, Mr. Bellfield?
one is why you leave some departments out.
The departments that weren't included on this list, they had relatively few transactions with the P card, things that we could handle internally within the finance department. And the other cards had generally more activity, where they were things that outside of maybe online orders or registrations. And so it just makes it simpler to have the activity with a card, or to be maintained within finance, and let finance handle those smaller departments.
So anything they need, that the finance department will take care of it.
We would.
Well, that brings to my next question. I thought that was probably going to be. And this is my personal opinion. I said this before. We ought to have a purchasing agency that purchase for all these departments. And they put in their requests, and you handle it. You have a specific staff to work with that.
I think a purchasing department would be great to have. We just don't have the capability with the number of staff that we have in finance right now to have that capability, so it's a decentralized process. But it's certainly something I would love to consider. We can look at adding additional staff and being able to create a purchasing department.
Well, I look at it, if you're doing it for some, either do one or the other. All departments have a card, or are they not? they don't have one in the finance department to be responsible. Naturally, a card may be needed, like if they have to go to some training and stuff like that, and things that you would still need a card. But I don't see, and I'm not etched in stone that I can't be convinced, but I don't see where it's more cost-effective than doing it the way I suggested that it be done.
Which department are you talking about that isn't
All
getting
of
one?
them.
I think he's saying all of them.
All of
You
them.
wouldn't have cards and everything would
But
be
some don't.
run through, which is
Yeah, oh,
generally the
yeah.
municipal way, but not necessarily the county way in my experience.
I got you.
Like Rocky Mount has the purchasing department and everything they got flows through there. I think it's not unusual. Maybe some large counties may have a purchasing department, but as Ms. Wood said, ours is decentralized.
I think some of them do.
Some of them, I'm sure would.
Yeah, oh,
Would
yeah.
decide
You
that,
gotta do
I
is
would
write
think.
you a letter, and you can get another one.
All right, other comments about the procurement cards?
I
from
have a
Commissioners?
question.
Ms. Wells?
I understand, and I talked to Mr. Lamb this morning, that the Board of Elections was left off, but they are getting a card, is that right?
They've been added.
I did add them to the list. They were one of the departments that requested a card because they do have a lot of activity that, and again, the procurement card is really, it's just, it simplifies purchasing for departments, and that's why we have them, Mr. Belfield, for departments outside of finance. It simplifies the purchasing process with not having the additional department for purchasing. You know, so if departments have a lot of transactions, that it makes it simple to use this tool for purchasing. That's why we wanted to put it out there and make it available for them. And that's why they requested it. In their request that they sent, they were indicating that it helped with how they purchased and how they transacted, how they were able to do their business with the P card.
Yeah, I think their question is, let's let an election time, and they may have to go 4 or 5 times to get something in one day. Then they got to run somebody down to get an approval before they could go and do it. If they got the card, they're gonna make sure they have their receipts, they're gonna turn everything in that needs to be turned in, and they promise you they're gonna be above board. But they don't need to be running somebody down when they need to be running to pick up something.
To give you an overview of where we were, we had 54 cards out. If we were to approve what Ms. Wood has brought to us this morning, it gets it down to 21 cards. We got 14 cards for departments. We got 2 departments with an additional card and 1 department with 5 additional cards. So that totals up 21. I think it's a great first step, but what does the board want to do?
Mr. Chairman.
I don't think we're in a position where we can change and go to a purchasing department right this moment. Is something we need to plan for during the budget
I
time.
understand that.
Acquisitions.
I understand that, but we could work
we certainly
work in
can.
that direction.
We can.
I have another
Yes, sir.
question here. I notice you have parks and recreation and park facilities separate. Why aren't they combined?
They're 2 separate departments. So Parks and Recreation takes care of the sports activities, and the park facilities takes care of actually the lawns and making sure that everything is clear and clean, and the grass is cut, and everything is lined the way it should be. So for example, if the park facility is out and they're cutting grass and they break a belt on a lawnmower, it's a simple way for them to be able to, using the procurement card, they could run and replace the belt on the lawnmower without having come back to the office or calling finance to order something for them. So it just makes it simple for them where they're not directly related to the activities on the sports field, the teams.
Well, to me, that could be a subsidiary of the Parks and Recreation. There, again, that could reduce, another card.
We could certainly consider that. I mean, I'm putting this out there for the board. You know, I've presented what was requested by the departments and tried to eliminate tried to make sure that we have internal controls in place with multi-layers and how this would all work out, but I certainly will, based on the board's recommendations, we will
Other
make
board
the cards
comments
available or
before I go
not
to Mr.
available.
Lamb? Mr. Lamb?
Yeah, I just want to say that we do have a purchasing department within the finance office. Any expenditure more than $500 has to go through the process of submitting the purchase order
Correct.
or going into the system.
That's our encumbrance system, that's correct.
Encumbrance system.
Right.
So really, what these cards deal with is purchases less than $500. It's a convenience and for the various departments. I would note that both the assistant county manager and the county manager are not going to have a card because we were trying to get the number down. And I know some people see it as status, and I really don't think that as you presented it, it's going to work well because you've just said that you're going to give it to everybody that asks for one. Well, if in the future somebody asks for one that's not listed now, does that mean you're going to give it to them? How are you going to, you're going to carte blanche give them to everyone that's requested additional cards? Like,
I didn't get her to say that she was recommended anything.
yes, she did. She said 21 cards.
No, I said 21 cards,
Well, she-
but I think she brought to us what was requested.
Right.
I feel like she's given it to the board, which I'm not sure is the proper place to decide what we're going to do.
Right.
I don't think she has made a recommendation, have you, Ms. Woods?
No, I've presented, so I took the original list down to 10 to try
Right.
to, and I looked at the 4 largest departments with each of those departments receiving a card. And what I was initially looking at, thinking these are the other departments that would have a lot of outside activities other than internal online, which that's where I came up with the aging park facilities, parks and recreation and facility maintenance, and then finance for obvious reasons, so we could have that card, and administration to help out with board activities or economic development. But then after hearing from the other departments who indicated that because it is, it does help reduce their time in making sure that things take place and transactions, they're able to do their work with the ease of using a P card. They requested a purchase card, and then some departments requested additional cards. So I wanted to put that out there to the commissioners just to show these were the departments that requested the cards, and also indicate.
So what we got, you haven't eliminated any card. What we're looking at is what people ask for.
That is correct. That is correct.
What she's saying is, if y'all approve this ordinance, then she intends to give everyone that's requested additional cards.
Got it. Right.
And
Or we should modify it.
or I guess she's going to make that decision. And in the future, when someone else says, I need a card,
Right.
or this person needs a card, she's going to have to make that decision. I'm just a little concerned that she intends to provide a card to everyone that's asked for an additional card, like,
I'm sorry, let me correct that.
okay.
So what I intended in this is that the departments that are listed on here would each receive one card, with the exception of those 3 departments that ask for additional cards.
Right.
And it would be, and if approved, that would be how they would be activated. If anyone else came back to the board with a request, then it would come back before the board.
It should.
Possibly that's what I should have done and indicated the numbers beside the requested amount. But my intent was to show each department that I listed would have one active card. And then the departments that ask for additional cards, if approved, those departments would be considered as part of this approval process and getting those. So emergency services would have 2. The sheriff's office, I believe, asked for 6. Cooperative Extension asked for 2. And if the board, after seeing the emails, I send the email requests out to the commissioners, felt that that was the direction that they wanted to go in. And I know initially, it was, the board didn't like, and I understand the 54 cards that were out there, we've eliminated it down, but we initially had it at 10, now it's back to 21 based on request. I wanted to put that out there to the commissioners after reading the request and talking to some of the department heads, because I feel like maybe they have contacted you as well, that it would be something that the board could help put in place, and determine the number of active cards available.
Well, my point is that I think we should never bring this back up to the commissioners. You should have the authority to give cards as needed. If we start a new department, would you have to come to them to ask them to approve the issuance of a credit card? In the past, we haven't done that. We've issued them as.
Why we had 54 out.
Well, in the past, I didn't bring the policy to the board for approval. It was an internal policy that I used, that I felt comfortable using, but because we were changing and we were eliminating things, I felt like it was the time to bring it to the board because it had become a concern. And so that's why I wanted this policy to be brought before the board. So if we did add another department, to me, I would think I'd need to revise the policy and again, bring it back before the board.
Well,
I'm a little concerned, though, that we're not getting the number down where we need to get it. As I've told y'all, there are counties that have 2 or 3 cards. I'm giving up my card. Stacy's giving up her card because when I need something, she can do it, on her card. And so everyone doesn't have to be carrying around a county credit card to mistakenly use for personal use, which occurs once in a while. So I'm not sure any department needs more than one, but I definitely do not believe any department needs more than, say, 3.
Yeah, they all ought to be limited to a maximum of 2.
And I just, that's all
Do
I
you as manager want additional time to work on this? Because what the board would expect is for y'all to bring a policy to us to adopt that y'all are in agreement on, maybe, and then we would probably pretty easily adopt it. I'm like you, I don't think this needs to be a board decision about each credit card unless the board feels different. But it seems like we're not quite in sync this morning. So,
well, I didn't know.
as manager, what do you want to do, Mr.
Yeah, I wasn't aware that she intended to grant every request that's been made since she published to the department heads.
I didn't get that that's where she is, but
That's what she said.
between you and her.
Is that what you said?
Let's move on.
Okay.
She don't need that.
That's not what I heard. What I heard her do is make a presentation of the additional requests. She threw it before this board. How we get to the bottom line on this, I don't know, but that's not what I heard. So I think I'm in agreement with the chairman. You guys need to go back and figure out what's what and then bring it back if you think you need to bring it back, and we'll deal with it. Way too much discussion on this morning.
Well,
And keep
did I
in mind,
misunderstand
Mr.
you?
Lamb,
I don't, did I misunderstand you? Did you intend to?
why don't y'all have this
Okay, we'll,
in department head meeting?
in the meantime, we will release at least one card to each department between now and when we come back.
Okay, and, the board got concerned about this because we had an issue. Anytime you have an issue, a lot of people get penalized that maybe don't need to be penalized because it doesn't like ought to start with. And I think that's the case here, that probably 95% of everybody was using the card properly. We had one bump up, and it all came to light, and the board got concerned about it. But certainly, we don't need to penalize a lot of people for the misdeeds of a given individual. If that's the case, we are, but board asked y'all to bring us a policy that y'all in harmony on.
Well, in addition to that, it wasn't just so much that the cards were issued, it was in light of some things that have happened, I
You didn't have a
identified.
P-card policy.
Right, I identified that there were some controls that I needed to tighten up on.
Sure.
You know, with the multi-level reviews and things like that, and who was able to review and who was able to use the card.
Mr. Chairman, if I may, I think the policy is written, it's fine. It was just, I believe that her interpretation of what she was going to do with the request was different than what y'all thought she was saying. I believe we can adopt the policy with the additional 3 departments being added, and then delegating to her, or a combination of her and administration, to decide the allocation.
Are y'all in agreement on that?
I do think the policy is ready to go, and I think it's just the number of cards that, that would be issued and made active is a concern. And so I would certainly really like to have the policy approved, and then I can work with the county manager and.
Do y'all want the policy approved as written, subject to y'all deciding the number of cards to be issued? Is that what you want?
Right. That'd be fine.
Without board involvement?
That'd be fine.
Why not do it all in one? Why not let them work on it?
Well, what I'm gonna do is
And bring
take
it
the
back
number-
next month?
Whatever the board wishes to do.
Well, all you're saying now is you've got a policy
Right.
which determines departments that will receive at least 1 card, and you're asking for approval of that policy, not the total number of cards. That would be under the discretion of you and the manager.
That is correct. That's what
Okay.
we're asking for.
And that's exactly where I think it should be, my opinion.
Can I take that as
But
a
I'll tell
motion?
you, yes, sir, but I want to say one more comment on that. I just hope, and I know, that you will look at this and consider all the requests, because what you don't want to happen here is for this thing to blow up like it did before. I'm just make that comment.
I agree.
And now I'll
You have
second,
to- I think
I'll
you have-
second that
I
comment.
think you have to sit down with these departments, and if they say they need a number of cards, then you really need to have an adult discussion on that to come to some agreement on what that number will be. Not they want 2, you say 1, and you guys blow up and walk away from each other, and they get to 1, and then we all start getting phone calls.
And you will.
And I don't want that. And
I
I
know.
don't need that, and
I
you don't
know.
want that.
But a credit card issued by the county is not an entitlement for
I
anyone.
understand that completely, but I don't run these departments, and I don't know what their needs are. I trust that you're all adults, you can sit down and figure that out, and I trust you'll do that.
We will.
The motion that I'm requesting is to approve the policy as written, with the understanding that each department that originally asked for one, or all of them that have asked for one now?
My opinion, I think, like Ms. Wells said, the elections board
Right.
probably needs one. Some of the others that request, I read all of those requests.
Right.
They sound to me like they're justified, so it'd be my recommendation you include those, and I would make a motion that we approve the policy with those included.
That would be 14 departments or entities that get a card.
Then if other departments determine they need a card, then they can come and make that request, and the policy can be revised if needed.
So the motion is for the benefit of the board that the policy as written is adopted, and the card number will be 14, 1 per department, is what the board is approving, and leaving it up to the discretion of administration to add 2 departments additional cards if they so get convinced that they need additional cards. Is that the
Chairman.
motion, Mr. Outlaw?
Yes, sir.
Okay, is there a second to that motion?
Second.
A second by Commissioner Wells. Questions, Mr. Bellfield?
I would like to see the staff work with each department, with them understanding the total policy, because it's a lot written in here. It's 8 pages where we're there with the Bank of America section, make 8 pages.
You just
And
request to make sure the department.
they really need to understand it.
Okay. I think that should definitely be done. All right, any other comments? Everybody understand the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries.
Let's take a break.
You have any question about the motion, Ms. Wood, are you good?
I'm good.
Okay, all right. We've been requested to have a 10-minute recess at this time, and request is granted. I will call us back to order at this time, and we were on item number 13, 13, and we finished it up, I'm thinking, Ms. Wood?
That is correct.
Okay. You're still standing there?
I am. I have the Central Nash Water District.
Oh, you're next on the
project.
agenda. Okay.
I am.
All right, I'd entertain a motion to recess our regular meeting at this time so we can go into a meeting of the Central Nash Water and Sewer District.
So moved.
I have a motion by Ms. Richardson to recess the regular meeting. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Outlaw. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Regular meeting now stands recessed, and I will call to order the Central Nash Water and Sewer District and actually it says for me to call for a motion to open the Central Nash Water District, which I don't think that's necessary.
I don't think it is either.
Okay, all right, so we are now here in the Central Nash Water System, and I'd call on Ms. Wood to make the presentation before us this morning.
Okay. The Central Nash Water District project is presented for amendment to include debt payments for our 2021 fiscal year. All four of the phases of the district are complete, but the Central Nash District still remains open because it has debt service through 2032. And so I need.
Through what?
2032.
2032?
That is
Okay.
correct. So this is an amendment to include payment for the principal and interest on the debt service. It's $215,000 for the principal, $418,640 for the interest. The transfer from the utility fund to fund these debt payments was approved in the ordinance, in the budget ordinance for fiscal year 2021. So this is just to prove that we can pay the debt service out of Central Nash District.
And you're saying we're paying principal of $215 and interest of $418?
That is correct.
There it goes.
That's rough. Okay. Any questions from the board? If not, I'll entertain a motion to approve the amendment to the project budget ordinance.
So moved.
Moved by Commissioner Outlaw. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well.
Thank you.
I'd entertain a motion to close the Central Nash Water and Sewer District Board at this time.
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Leggett. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Richardson. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? That board stands adjourned for the present time, and I will call the regular meeting of the Nash County Board of Commissioners back to order at this time. And that puts us on item number 19, which is board appointments, and I'd call on Stacy to make the presentation to the board.
Good morning.
Good morning.
We just have the appointments for the Tourism Development Authority, the TDA. This has come before you for a couple months in a row now, and I believe that you all have applications in front of you this morning for, is the last name Clark, Melissa Clark?
Yes.
Okay, Melissa Clark and Carol Rita. And I'm assuming that Carol Rita would be for the tourism-related member,
That is correct.
and Melissa Clark would be one of the collector members that's needed.
That is correct.
Okay.
And that would leave us one collector member that I still need to seek assistance to help fill. I would just say on those two, Carol is in the restaurant business in our area. Her and her husband Lou own two restaurants, one on Sunset Avenue across from Harris Teeter. The other one is Tap 1918 down at the Mill Village. And she was actually brought to me and recommended by the person coming off the board, who is Bill that runs the chicken fillet. And then the other lady is a collector. She works at the Country Inn and Suites and has been there for quite a while, and that's where Donovan Chavis and her daughter work the same place. And of course, Donovan has since left and gone to work with the City of Rocky Mountain, and her daughter got transferred to Zebulon in another area with the same hotel. Any questions on those two?
I would just like to say that Carol will make an excellent member.
Thank you, Ms. Wills. Any other questions? Entertain a motion for approval for those two.
Move approval.
Moved by Commissioner Belfield. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Wells. Any questions on those motions? That motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries. Is that all you had today?
Yes.
And as I said, I still like one collective member. If you happen to know someone that works in one of our local hotels, I'd like to go ahead and get that position filled in August if I can. And I've got Ms. Green working on finding me somebody also. All right, we'll move on then to, that was Board Appointments 19. Item 20 is the monthly tax report. I call on Ms. Sumner to make that presentation. Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning. As you know, you have before you at this time the monthly tax report. This report is designed to keep the board current on activities in the tax office, and it's for informational purposes only and does not require approval. However, it is recommended that you accept the report so that it be noted in the minutes, and if you have any questions, I'll be glad to answer those.
Any questions on the report? Seeing none, the report is accepted. Thank you, ma'am. We'll move to item number 21, which is tax refunds.
Yes, sir, we do have a refund that we need approval so that we can disperse those funds.
Okay. Any questions on the refunds? Entertain a motion for approval. Moved by Commissioner Outlaw, second by Commissioner Belfield. Any questions on that motion? All in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries as well. Thank you, ma'am.
All right, thank you.
Do you have anything else?
No, sir.
Okay.
Thank you.
You do release this attorney, right?
We're now on item number 22, which is commissioner comments. Any commissioner have anything they'd like to bring before the board at this time? Seeing no one, I generally like to just tell you where we are on permits, just new homes. We did have 27 new homes in the month of June, which is close to the 30 that I try to see every month, so we'll maintain about 364 a year. But seems to still be going pretty well considering all that's going on in the world. I think that our new home permits are still up close to about one a day. And that's all I had to present. If no other commissioner has anything, I'd ask for number 23.
How are you and the sheriff doing?
How am I and the sheriff doing? To the best of my knowledge, I and the sheriff are doing well. I talked to him several times over the weekend. I think he finally made it through the Outer Banks as well, but I feel like we're...
You usually give us an update.
Right, no issues with the sheriff at this time whatsoever. In fact, I think we're doing pretty well. Thank you for asking. I'll turn it over to Mr. Lamb for the manager's report.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the board. At the last meeting, I think it was Mr. Outlaw requested a monthly update on financials and particularly revenues, how we're looking given the economic situation and COVID-19 as we close out last year's budget. And so got a little summary here just to let everyone know that where we are. I'll start off with ad valorem taxes. As y'all know, that's 54% of our budget revenue stream. As I said at the 29th meeting, we're at 99.05 now. I think it was 03 at the time. We're expected to climb to 99.06, highest that we can find in the county's history. We have one more month of motor vehicles to come in, and even conservatively, if we bring in 400 and some thousand, and we normally bring 500 to 600,000, we will have $3 million more than we budgeted for the year in ad valorem. Again, we did not anticipate being able to collect that kind of rate and those kind of taxes, ad valorem taxes for the year because of COVID and the economic crisis. However, people in the county, the people in Nash County did pay their taxes by the end of the year, and again, we were the highest we've ever been. Sales tax, we've got notice of May, and right now with May's sales tax, we're at 14.75 million, and we budgeted 15.65 million. So if we have 900,000 for the month of June, we will meet our expectation. And we probably will exceed it. This month we had, for May, we had 1.3 million. We need 900,000 in order to meet budget. The chairman talked about the building permits. They're actually 350,000 was our budget amount, and we collected $443,000, which is 27% higher than what we had previously budgeted for the year. Planning fees are also up from, we budgeted 14,000. We brought in 18,700, an increase of 34%. Along those lines, property excise tax, stamps as they're normally called, in the Register of Deeds office, we budgeted 285, and we brought in 285,000. We brought in 312,500, 10% higher than budgeted. Filing fees with the Register of Deeds office, we budgeted 360. We brought in 390. That means people are either refinancing with deeds of trust, or that's also when you record a deed, income we get for that. So people are still getting married. I want y'all to know. We budgeted $12,000, and we brought in $12,025. So we met our target in marriages, so right on target. Court facility fees, even though we didn't have court a lot at the end of the fiscal year, we budgeted 88,000 and we brought in 91,000, 3.5% higher. So that was a good indicator for us. Jail fees, we're right at par. Even if they were going somewhere else, we still collected the jail fees. So but canceling of court hurt us there a little bit during the last few months. That's why we didn't quite meet our budget, but that was just because the judges weren't ordering jail fees to be paid by defendants because defendants weren't coming into the courtroom. One area of concern are the ambulance fees. Last couple of years, we've been going down. This year, we budgeted $3.36 million and brought in $2.76 so far. We may have a little bit more coming in, but that's $603,000 under budget, or 18%. That's why I asked the question about the convalescent transfers. We need to make sure we're not overusing those and cutting into our revenues. Investment earnings, we budgeted $750,000, and as of the end of June, we had collected $794,000, or 6% higher than budget. I do caution you, however, that a lot of that investment earnings matured during the last week of June, and was that commercial paper was purchased before the interest rates went down. So I think we budgeted much less for next year, $250,000 for this coming year. But we did meet expectations, 6% higher. ABC distribution, we budgeted $378,000 and we've received $518,000. So it's about 37% higher than budgeted.
Must be those wedding receptions.
We still have to collect the big items before we can really see what the picture for the year is, as far as adding to the fund balance, which doesn't appear likely, or taking from the fund balance in our audit. We still have that 1 month of motor vehicles to collect. We've got 2 months of sales tax to collect. We've got notice on one of those 2 months of the amount. Social service revenues from the state, where they pay for part of positions, that continues to flow in July and August, and health revenues from the state also. We started off the year budgeting $5.32 million from fund balance, and during the year we made amendments and appropriated from fund balance another $4.5 million. So we ended up appropriating from fund balance for the year $9.96 million. Now, where did that $4.5 million that was added come from? Well, at the end of last year, there were still some purchase orders out, including, I believe, an ambulance remount. So we reappropriated $644,000 in purchase orders that had not been completed as of last June 30th. The commissioners appropriated $1.07 million for high-speed internet because of your concern about the need for high-speed internet throughout the county. We decided not to finance the 5 remounts for the EMS. Instead, we decided it would be better just to go ahead and use fund balance. That was $310,000 that we appropriated from fund balance. Miracle Park, $143,000. Spring Hope for their recreation, $49,000. Of course, that will be reimbursed eventually by Spring Hope. The Pfizer inducement ended up being about twice as much as we had anticipated, and so we had to add $467,000 from fund balance for that inducement. Y'all appropriated $1.5 million for the detention center capital needs, and also $100,000 for the detention center operations. We hope we will not need to use that $100,000. Based on the last meeting we had, we feel like if we do, it'll be very small amount of that $100,000, but it's in our totals right now. COVID-19, $175,000 we appropriated from fund balance. That will be reimbursed either by FEMA or through our CFR funds, CRF funds. We had to appropriate $46,000 when we took over the Nashville recreation. We spent $50,000 on the health building, I think mainly in Rocky Mount. So that just shows you that what we had to do during the year that added to that fund balance. And so at about $10 million from fund balance, it's going to be really hard to break even. But y'all have maintained a very strong fund balance through the years. And as you know, in our last audit, you had a very strong fund balance. So I think we are going to cut into that fund balance, but it's not going to be anything that would threaten the fiscal soundness of the county. So if there's any questions on revenues?
Questions from board members?
Just a question on on COVID. And this may be a stupid question, but with the needs that we have in the rural parts of the county with broadband, is there any way any of that money that we receive from the state can be used to help fund the expansion of that project out in the county?
I'm not sure if directly we can.
We may be able to use some of it as a match for phase 3. We're looking into that.
Okay, well, you got virtual learning, and I just listening to Wake County a week in, 2 weeks out, so when they're out, if they go that route, they've got to learn some way, and that's through the internet.
Right.
And I don't know what our children are going to do here, but they've got to learn, and if they don't have access to broadband, now and in the future, it would seem that is a big problem. It is a big problem.
It is.
And maybe this COVID thing could provide some funding to do that. I just think that's something we should.
Yeah, we'll explore that, absolutely.
Well, you could certainly also tie it to employees being required to work from home.
Exactly.
I hear that quite a bit.
Yeah.
There's many needs for the broadband to be in the rural parts of the county.
Absolutely.
Other comments or questions on the revenue, Mr. Belfield?
No, just a comment. This is something I heard on TV, and I don't think I heard it but one time. But it was kind of like, I believe it was a commercial saying that in rural areas where you can do without they had some technique that could be used that you wouldn't need broadband. And I haven't bothered to follow it up to see, but as I recall, it was a commercial. It's been about a month ago that I saw that on TV.
Well, there's a commercial that's running from one of the satellite companies that provide, I think it's Hughes Network that I've seen several times, maybe what you're speaking of.
And it was saying that you didn't really need broadband. I mean, in rural areas, if you don't have it, this is a route that you could go.
You can go. It's rather expensive, and it is relatively unreliable, is what I understand. So it is better than nothing, certainly.
Yeah.
Mr. Lamb, the transport, that's a significant drop. And what's going on there? Are we failing to collect what we're doing? Are the numbers going down? And can we continue to spend the money we're spending on ambulances and remounts if our revenue continues to go down?
Yeah, we, for the last 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, we renegotiated the contract and things were going up, up, up. I think some of it may be Medicaid, Medicare reductions in their reimbursements. I think we would be told that. But the call volume has gone down even before COVID-19. If on the daily reports, I've noticed that even with COVID-19, when everybody was sheltered at home, we might have 40 or 50 calls a day, which is lower than normal. So that might be part of it. But I think generally they tell us that the calls have gone down. The number of calls have gone down, and apparently the reimbursements from both private insurance and Medicaid and Medicare may have been reduced. Also, $200,000 a year is, we were standby for all certain procedure at the hospital that we're no longer the standby for. So we were making about $16,000 a month as doing that, and now we're only called under certain circumstances. So we lost $200,000 right there.
Was that something that we need to watch, I'm sure, as we get continued requests for remounts and new ambulances? We got to see where we're at, I guess.
Yeah, well, this coming year, we've only got into budget, no remounts and one new vehicle. So, and I do think we need at least one new vehicle, so.
So you don't think it's a collection problem then?
I don't. I think it's,
You know, when we started this thing 5 years ago, we had a real collection problem.
Right.
And we
fixed it.
Fixed it.
Yeah.
Is it still fixed, I guess, is my question.
I think we need to start putting more attention to it, and certainly not farming out any calls that we can internally do and get the revenue for, so.
Okay. Is that your report? Anything else you need to report?
I would just like to thank all our employees for wearing their mask. We've asked all employees to do that, and as you can see, they are definitely doing it, and I think that's very important. And I appreciate all of y'all wearing your masks also. This COVID-19 thing doesn't seem to be going away, and but we can't shut down county government. I know some counties have, but we can't shut down county government, so we have to adapt. And of course, facilities have been putting up barriers. If you've been by the tax office, that's a permanent barrier that is between the customer and the staff. So we all look forward to the day where we're not dealing with COVID-19, but it hits home too often. And I know some of us are in a club that has lost someone, and so just again, thanks everybody for wearing their mask, and thank y'all for taking temperatures in the morning. That's been a good thing also. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else from board members? If not, we do not have another meeting this month, I do not think.
No.
Does the management see any need for an additional meeting in July at this time?
Not necessarily. Y'all had talked about it at one time, but
Right.
I don't think we've scheduled it.
Okay. All right, well, I'd entertain a motion then to go into closed session. The closed session will be for economic development, as we do beginning of each month, for a couple of matters of attorney-client privileges, and a personnel matter.
We need to go outside.
Is there a motion to go into closed session?
So moved.
Motion by Commissioner Leggett, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of that motion, let it be known by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed by a like sign? All right, this time I will call the Nash County Board of Commissioners back into our regular session. During closed session, there was no action taken. We did discuss two matters in which we need to take action in open session. First item was an offer we received on land purchase in the Gold Rock area, and I'd asked Mr. Durham to explain that offer that we received and how we're going to handle it.
I would like the board to indicate by motion their intent to accept the offer to purchase this property in Gold Rock owned by Nash County with the purchase price of $104,945 and with two conditions. One, that the property, the dilapidated motel, be demolished and cleared within 6 months after the closing of the sale, and that the property be redeveloped within 36 months after the sale. If that's okay, I would ask that you adopt a motion to that effect. Thank you.
And it's our understanding that we have the right to reject all offers at the end of the process.
You would have the right to reject.
Okay. Is there a motion to that effect?
So moved.
Moved by Ms. Richardson. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Leggett. Any questions on the motion by anyone? See none, all in favor, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? Motion carries, and if you'll just work with Mr. Sharon and let him know what we're doing. Second item was we felt we had a need to have a recess at this meeting. We will be recessed at this meeting until Wednesday of this week, which will be the 8th at 1:30, did we, 2:30?
9:30.
9:30.
9:30.
I'm still trying to have an afternoon on it.
Door number 3.
9:30. And the purpose of that meeting was the Board of Commissioners has the desire to take some action as it relates to COVID-19 and our citizens in the county. And we have asked the staff to prepare a resolution in regard of our concern. And our concern is the fact that all of our citizens are not wearing masks in public places in response to the governor's executive order. Of course, we realize we can't enforce that, but we still have a strong desire that we wish to encourage our citizens to do it. So we'll come back together on Wednesday morning at 9:30 and have a discussion on that, and probably we'll be passing a resolution, something concerning that. Any other comments from commissioners this time? Seeing none, I entertain a motion to close the meeting, or excuse me, recess this meeting until Wednesday morning at 9:30. Moved by Commissioner Wells, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Commissioner Bellfield. Any questions on the motion? All in favor of the motion, let it be known by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by a like sign? We stand recessed.